Hey guys, it's Steven from the Green Engineers, and welcome to 1/10/2022 update. I hope you guys had a great New Year and happy holidays, and I hope you guys had a great 2021, and I hope for you guys have a great 2022. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the new updates on things that I have planned for this year. Also expanding on previous videos. I have some actual physical stuff to show you this time instead of just this one um, instead of just like a splash screen of my logo, the Green Engineers logo. And I have some big updates. I can't remember if I mentioned this in a previous video, but I'm going to expand on it a little bit more. If I haven't talked about it, then this is the first time that you guys are going to hear it. And I'm super excited about this one. Okay, so we have a couple things to talk about. We're going to talk about the services, the three services, and then we're going to talk about the products and kind of the plan for each of those. So, first thing is what I have here on the screen. This is for the filament making system, my version 2 of my filament making machine, as well as the development for selling filament, right? So last video I discussed that I had some runaway issues on the current how do I say, competitor filament maker that I'm testing out to kind of get going with doing some filament and seeing, kind of using that as a jump off point to develop my own. I'm having some issues with it was jamming because too big of particles were going in there, and I didn't have anything that was going to make sure that the particles were the correct size before they went in, because this is recycled material and not virgin material. So virgin material usually is a small cylinder, and they are very, very tight tolerances where they're all kind of the same size, and they're very, very consistent on their size. So that leads to very, very, very good extrusion, right? But in recycled, you have generally varying sizes, longer strips, smaller strips, and depending on the process that they're using. So for shredding, which is the machine that I plan on using for recycling, but this is I'm getting from a third-party recycler, which is also would be the same for some of you that would buy my filament maker. You'd be getting recycling material from third-party, right? And they could be doing all kinds of stuff, pulverizing it, grinding it, whatever, right? And so I have my hands on some regrind, and that regrind is all the way from like powder, right, all the way up to, I don't know, maybe 5/16, right? Or maybe 3/8, all the way to 3/8 chunks. And they're odd sized chunks. They're not square chunks. They are like diamond shaped chunks, right? 3D diamonds, right? Shaped chunks, round chunks, dust, all that stuff. And so what was happening is I think I was getting some chunks that were too big, that were on that bigger size, the 3/8 size, and they were getting stuck in the extruder galley inside the compression screw, right? Inside the flute of the compression screw. And so I created this sieve because I looked online and on McMaster, and I wanted a 1/4 inch sieve because that would be the maximum size that my shredder can cut, right? Or the minimum size that my shredder can cut. Because the shredder that I've designed, the reclaimer, is 1/4 inch blades. So the smallest width that you can cut is 1/4 inch. Otherwise, it goes right between the blades. So I was like, hey, I'm going to look for a 1/4 inch sieve to buy. And I found out that a 1/4 inch sieve is not a standard size. And I said, well, 1/4 inch is big enough for a printer, so why don't I just print it? And so I developed this sieve to use on to make sure that all the stuff that I put in here is under 1/4 inch. So these are 1/4 inch squares. And what happens is you load this guy up, you put the lid on, and then you shake it, and then it goes ahead, and everything that's left falls into this bottom. And these are a little bit over 1 kilogram if you use the lightest 3D printing material, which I can't remember what it was. There was one that was like 1 gram per cubic centimeter or something like that. And it was very, very light compared to all the other ones. And so if you put a 1 kilogram in here and all of it transfers, it should get about 1 kilogram here. So you fill it all the way up the top. That's what you should do, and you smooth it all out. But of course, I think I didn't account enough for the odd shaped size particles. And so it's not quite 1 kilogram. So I think I need to increase these a little bit. But I didn't want to go too much. Otherwise, I couldn't fit it between my hands. And I might make this guy not as overshooty, even though it doesn't really matter because it's not going to expand your hands because from here down is really what counts. Anyways, this worked amazing. So the first time that I sieved it, I had a whole bunch of bigger particles that were stuck in here, and I was able to just either put them in my shredder, but right now I have a bent gear on my shredder, and so I just threw it in the trash. And it was like maybe 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pieces, but those handful dozen of pieces could have got stuck in the machine and clogged it up, and then cause a completely bad spool. You would have to cut it there, and if you didn't see it, then it would have went on for longer, and then you would have had even you would had a mess up there, and that would cause a failed print if you're doing a full kilogram print. So that's not good. Okay, so now when I ran this guy today, so I ran this guy after sieving, and it ran great. So I no longer have these failures of jamming and things like that and weird things happening. But so basically now the reliability is 100%, and it's been going since 6 o'clock, and it is now 12:30 or something at night. So and I started drying it at like 1, and I went till 5:30, and then sieved it, and then put it into the filament maker, and then started extruding. But now the issues that I'm having is that I'm still having those ups and downs extremes where it will go up to like 0.2 millimeter difference from 1.75. So it'll go down to like 1.55 or up to almost 2 millimeters. Now, for most of the night, from 6 till maybe 9, 10, it was where I would like it to be with this single step, which is about 80% of the spool was plus or minus, well, actually, I'm going to say 90% of the spool was plus minus 0.05 millimeters, which is really good, which is like industry standard. And then some places they go 0.02, right? But then the 5%, or so either that was a 90 or 95%, and then the other 5 to 10% is when it would go to 1.1 millimeter plus or minus. So that means it would go to like 1.85 or 1.65. Now, still percentage wise, that's not very much, so it's not going to cause a massive amount of under extruding, but for some, that could turn off a lot of people. From using my own filament, I noticed that the biggest thing that will throw it off is moisture, and the size difference isn't that big as long as it will fit through if you have like a Capricorn Bowden tube, because those are very tight, so the filament could get stuck in there. I've had that on my Stratasys where I used a Bowden tube and some material that was really, really bad from a manufacturer. It was like a really, really bad, a really, really old spool of Octave from like 10 years ago, and that guy was getting stuck, right? Even after I dried it. And it was just, I think the diameter was all over the place, and it was getting stuck in the Capricorn Bowden tube. And then so I think I increased that size to a bigger tolerance tube, and now I don't have any issues. So that's not that bad. So that was great. I would like to see that all day long, but the issue is as the day went along, I think what happens is it starts to settle. So what I mean is that when I sieve it, the thinner particles fall through first, and the heavier particles stay on top here, right? And so when I pour it in there, it's kind of biased where I think the bigger particles are first, and I get better consistency, and then the smaller particles mix in with the bigger particles, and then now they're causing issues when I pour it in, because now they're getting this 0.2 millimeter up and down, and that's too much. So I'm looking into some solutions for that. One of them is like I was talking about, where I extrude it and then chop it down to basically make the same things as the regular batch that goes in there, because the regular batch, which I have some here, is basically just looks like filament cut into maybe 3/16 chunks. Actually, maybe 1/8 inch chunks. So they just chop it into 1/8 inch chunks, and then there you go. You're good to go. But that would cut your production in half. You'd have to extrude it once the first time, and then chop it up, and then extrude it a second time. The next thing that I'm going to try to do, and that's because I think it's the variance between dust to the 1/4 inch. The next thing I'm going to try is I'm going to do multiple sieves. So I'm going to do different, not like phases, but different batches, right? So I'll do like probably 4 different batches. So one is from dust to 1/4 of a 1/4 inch. Next one is 2/4 of a 1/4 inch, or down to an eighth inch. So from whatever that previous one is to 1/8 inch, and then from 1/8 inch to 3/16, and then from 3/16 to 1/4 inch. And so that way the particles are way closer together size wise. Because I think what's happening is that this extruder does not have speed control. And so what's happening is as it speeds up, it's sending just power as a PWM, right? Pulse width modulation. So it's basically outputting a power. And as these bigger and smaller particles come in, it'll get easier or harder for the extruder to move, right? And it will require more or less power for more or less pressure, and that's basically vibrating. And pressure is what allows the filament to come out. So if that pressure keeps vibrating, you get these, up, down, up, down, up, down, and then sometimes you get some, big stretch of big particles, and the winder is already set at pulling at a certain speed, and then all of a sudden, it stops extruding very quickly, or starts extruding very quickly, and then the winder doesn't know what to do, right? So I'm going to try this phased style of sieve, and then I'm going to try possibly making a cheaper extruder, or buying. I had, unfortunately now I'm kicking myself for it, I had a version 1 fill extruder from like long time ago. That would have been great to extrude it out and then build a chopper for it. But I could also use my version 1 extruder. I have a couple of those laying around that I can modify to do the chopping and then send it through this guy. So that way I can double my output. And you don't really need this guy higher precision with a sensor on it. You just need to pull at the same speed and then chop it, right? And then my extruder, my version 1, I think it probably goes faster than this one. Because this one right now I'm at... Mm, but I think I was only at like I was more than a foot per minute though. I can't remember what my speed was. I'll have to watch some of my old videos. Anyways, um, but I think that would be because I had a 1 inch barrel with a huge um, auger inside of it. So, and a pretty high powered motor inside of it as well, and a high powered heater compared to this one, compared to the one that I'm using now. So that would be good. And then just have a shredder blade come around and chop it up, right? And then put it into a bag, and then put it back in the extruder, extrude it again. And then I would develop something to have that all in one kit for the other system, right? So that's kind of what I'm looking at right now. And I'm going to try to do the sieve first and see if that's possible, because I would definitely like to have that with the customers to know that that's available, and how to do a couple of those things in order to kind of save money and not have to buy another product, right? So that will get the service up, as well as work on the stuff um, for the filament maker version 2. And the next thing that I'm doing right now, I am printing the validation print to get my backup extruder onto this one. What is it called? Treat stock. And treat stock is where I print commercially. so I get that service back up. So hopefully this year a big focus is going to be to start selling filament, right? And then get my commercial printing going again. I paused it for the end of December and the beginning of January because I was out of town, etc., etc. And then also the Stratasys went down. The toggle bar got stuck, so that was the only one I had listed. So I finished up the rest of the ones that I had to do with my backup printer, which is gonna eventually be my my main printer this year. So I'm beginning the transition to that, and I've already started doing some different modifications. So speaking of that, because I'm doing that, and then also this year I am redoing my classes so that I get that money back up, get some better reviews, try to do a better class, add more classes, and so I'm going to be hitting the classes pretty hard this year. I already started redoing some of my classes. Okay, so another thing, the big thing I was going to talk about is I came up with this new idea for 3D printing. I think it's pretty big for more for FDM, for higher grade plastics as well as lower grade such as PLA and stuff like that, but way better for higher grade plastics, and hopefully drop down the price of getting a really high end extruder that can do these high end plastics such as Ultem Peak, PEKK, nylons, polycarbonates, ABS, etc., etc. So I kind of came up with a new technology for that. I've done a couple preliminary tests on it. It does seem viable, so we are going to be working on that. And that's about all that I want to say about that. I do believe now, I'm thinking that I mentioned that in the previous video. I have been consulting some people that I believe are more of an expert in that certain technology that I'm going to be using, right? And they also think that it's a good idea. Some of them have some brief 3D printing knowledge, not like commercial 3D printing knowledge like I do, right? But some good 3D printing knowledge, and they also think that it's feasible as well. So I'm going to be working on that, and I think that's going to be probably one of my biggest products going forward. The 3D printer I knew was going to be a pretty big product, but now this is, another level of something that I'm looking at. Okay, anyways, that's about all I want to talk about that at this point. And the shop is ongoing. The shop build out is ongoing. I'm going to be doing some drastic changes because I am not happy with the performance of last year as far as how much I got done. So I'm going to have to take some drastic measures to make sure that gets completed and gets operational this year, right? So there's going to be some drastic measures taken on that to make sure that is completed and hopefully accelerate that drastically. Next. Yeah, so the water jet and things like that, and the mill and all that stuff. Like I said, that's all kind of hanging, and then also the development for the printer, more development for getting things more than one into development. So what I mean by that is doing like a production run. I have nowhere to put a production run, so that's where the shop needs to come together, and also all the other things that I have planned in the structure to assist the shop as well, and it's being able to do what it needs to do. Okay, so I think that's pretty much it on what's going on. So it's all trying to get the services up so I could start doing that. And as you can see, I have some learnings that are pretty important for putting on the extruder, as well as that cool technology I invented for the 3D printing. So things are coming along. And that was all from doing the commercial 3D printing and experience that 3D printing for work and other friends and all those things. That's where the learning comes. That's why I am creating this, doing these services, which all have something to do with each of my products, right? And that way I can see these issues and fix these issues for people that use the product, right? On a daily basis for multiple different reasons. I get parts that come through the commercial printing business that I would probably never see printing for myself or printing for others. And that's the idea. I say, oh, hey, this is a problem. I can't do this. Or, for example, this one, if I was just making filament for myself and not trying to recycle plastics, I wouldn't have known about this particulate because I've used this system to extrude virgin ABS, virgin high impact polystyrene, and virgin ASA. No problems. They plus or minus 0.03 all day long, right? But you throw these varying particle sizes at it, and that's when it starts to stumble, and you have to have these other technologies and these other fixes to get it to do what you need it to do. Anyways, so super excited about that new technology and also about the continuing development of this making filament. I think we're making good headway there. I need to do some more on the shop. The shop has progressed a little bit faster than it was last year already this year, but I'm going to be taking that drastic measure to make sure that it gets done this year and that I'm able to move the services into the shop as well as start to do some machining on the equipment that I told you guys about. Okay, and then also the water jet and a laser and all those other kinds of stuff. And then my resin printer, I still need to get that guy up. A couple people I owe some prints, and then get it up on the service to use that Sonic Mega 8K. And then I think tomorrow or today, technically it's already 12. Today, I should be getting a tracking number either today or next week, Monday. I should be getting a tracking number for my Sonic Mini 8K from Frozen. So I'll have the Sonic Mega 8K and the Sonic Mini 8K, and then I think I'll call that it for the resin printers. And then also later on, as I gain experience with those, I'll have a class on those because I hope to do an FDM class on beginner, which I already did. It's already out on Udemy, and then intermediate advanced, and then a resin beginner intermediate advanced, as well as being on the printing service and doing commercial printing. Okay, so that's pretty much it. And then those will also go into the workshop. They are difficult to use at the current location because of the smell, right? They're pretty harsh. Even using the plant-based resins, the smell is still pretty bad. So they need to be inside of like a vacuum box where they're vented and stuff like that in a shop. So those probably won't be used extensively until they are already inside the vacuum box that is vented inside the shop. All right, guys, so that is basically the update for January 2022. I hope to have more physical things to show you guys in the upcoming months. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next update. Thanks. And thanks for following along for all the new subscribers that I see. The subscribers that are joining are starting to accelerate. So thanks for joining along, and I hope you guys stay tuned to more upcoming updates. All right, thanks, guys. I'll talk to you later. Bye.